Pretty cool map for PvP, actually. So we'll be back in just a second. Okie dokies, ladies and gentlemen, so Bashfix will be spawning up to the north here in the top right-hand corner as the green Protoss. And down to the bottom left-hand corner we do have NrSReSpOnSe going to be spawning here as the orange Protoss. So a bit of PvP action here. And again, do apologise for my nose, as it's actually the most annoying thing. It actually has a huge detrimental effect on my casting, I must admit. I'm never at 100% when my nose is like this, and I have these allergies, so... at some point, I am going to fix this once and for all very soon in the future, because I actually just can't live with it anymore. It's horrible. So, what will we have from both of these players? PvP evolved ever so slightly from the four gate shenanigans that has gone on for a long time, ever since the release of the game. However, nowadays you do see two very predominant builds. We are seeing a lot of kind of 3-gate robos. However, ultimately that really does fall a lot of the time to the player that goes 3-gate robo Twilight Council with Blink for the blobs action, aka Blink and Observers. And we're also seeing quite a bit of Phoenix play. Now, Phoenix play gets pretty hard shut down by Stalker play, depending on how well you actually execute it. So the Phoenix play is really only for the kind of the 3-gate robo play that we do see coming out a lot of the time in this matchup. From kind of, I don't know, less informed people, I guess. Even I use 3-gate robo, man, to a certain degree. I mean, I've been working a lot recently with blobs, Blink, and Observers. 4-gate is still very good in PvP. It's so bad. What? 4-gate just isn't good against an opponent taking precautions. As long as they're not skipping, things, as long as they're not skipping initial zealots, not getting too greedy, not planting down all their tech instantly, in order to be able to deal with things. So, indeedy too. So, what are we going to have? Cybernetics Core on the way for Mr. Bashfix right now. And we have a second gas going down very quickly for Mr. NrSReSpOnSe. That has been noticed, though, by Mr. Bashfix. That's pretty cool. Second gas already going down for Bashfix as well. Slightly later, but not to worry, as both players are going to have a relatively even gas. So we have a few Stalkers on the way for NrSReSpOnSe. Nothing too crazy going on yet. There's no kind of ridiculous 3-Stalker rushes going on. 3-Stalker rush would be very indicative by having a second gateway going down once the Cybernetics Core is about 75% complete. So right now, both players looking okay. Nothing too crazy happening. Neither player really gearing up for any kind of 4-gate action. Okay, so Bashfix may try and fake some 4-gate play due to the fact that he's got that composition. Looks like Mr. NrSReSpOnSe wanted to put down a Twilight Council. We have a second gateway going down for Mr. Bashfix. Indeed, that Twilight Council will go down for NrSReSpOnSe. So, indeed, maybe some blobs play on the way. Okay, so on this map in particular, Blink with Observers, in my opinion, is not too good. I don't know whether or not you can blink over this gap here. I don't think you can, due to the fact that these crates are here and this fan is here for that kind of jump. But for a good portion of the defense, or as the defender in PvP on this map especially, Blink on the way for Bashfix as well. So both players going for Blink here potentially. Although he has a lot of gas saved up, he could actually go for DT Shrine, which would just kill him outright by the looks of things. Does he? He doesn't have a Robo Bay on a Robo Facility on the way. Normally you see Robo Facility down. There we go. There's the Robo Facility. Okay, so it wouldn't kill him outright. So we do have Blink on the way for Bashfix. But yeah, this map, there's really not too much to be aggressive with in terms of Blink. Looks like we have a little bit of a push up here, but he's not going to be able to do too much. As 2 Stalkers and a Zealot versus 3 Stalkers. Do not triumph over 3 Stalkers, unless the micro is abysmal, but... Okay, so pretty much mirrored builds right now. And as I was saying a million times over, oh god, stop being aggressive, I want to make my point. Okay, so the point is, long story short, this is the only area you really need to defend in order to be able to defend domain and natural. When it comes to what do we do when blobs collide? Oh god. Is it like that song? It's like Worlds Collide, I don't know. That always reminds me of RuneScape, and I'm not going to go into why. Okay, so I never played RuneScape. Let's get that absolutely perfectly clear right now. Okay, so we do have Blink on the way for both players. Observers going out as well. A lot of Stalkers going to be warped in. Both players do have the 3 gates up. You can't really afford 4 gates along with a Robo and Twilight Council, or with Tech. I suppose you could later on when you're not actually utilizing those 2 buildings, but not to worry. Okay, so he does have a Force Field, which will be able to delay his opponent's push ever so slightly, but that being said, he doesn't have too many Stalkers out here. A lot more rallying across the map right now, that Observer on the way as well. It's going to be really who can kind of snipe out their opponent's Observers here. And regardless, it looks like Tibia. No, I haven't played Tibia. I've played a lot of MMOs, but I never got around to playing Tibia. Okay, so right now, Bashfix has got a pretty good supply lead, but that is because NrSReSpOnSe has invested 400 minerals into an expansion and gets an Observer killed off rather darn quickly. Not the best situation to be in the slightest. Ah, oh, dear me. I hate my nose, man. It's actually driving me nuts. Hello, Mr. Flares. Oh. It's going to drive me even more nuts when it's 3 AM, because it just gets worse, progressively worse during the night. So, Mr. NrSReSpOnSe does have a few sentries back here. He could force field this potentially for a while in order to be able to delay this push. We have an Immortal on the way, as well as an expansion for Mr. Bashfix as well. And I don't know, Bashfix is in a pretty good position, although this probe behind here does spot this expansion. He's going to be able to push up, and right now, going to Unit Counting Station, he has quite a few more Stalkers than his opponent, so he could actually deny this expansion. So, really nice play from Bashfix, really knowing when his opponent indeed does expand and how to punish that. Wow, Kigrath is only just back with his laptop. That is ridiculous. Your laptop takes forever to boot up, man. Okay, so Blink versus Blink, as he does retreat for now. No Observer in the mix for NrSReSpOnSe, so he can't snipe his opponent's Observer out. Few units will retreat, but for Bashfix right now, he's done what he needs to do. He's delayed his opponent's expansion, and he's getting his own expansion up. So this is going to be, the coins are going to be flipped now. He's going to have NrSReSpOnSe going to be the aggressor, trying to make something happen. He is getting a Warp Prism out, and he already has that initial Immortal. Oh, 2 Immortals out right now, in order to be able to put on some pressure to these guys. Now, he could use this Warp Prism not only to warp in units, but also to micro his Immortals from being focused down a little bit better against these Stalkers. That being said, you have to be very, very careful when picking up your Immortals, making sure that the Stalkers don't randomly focus down. Oh, wow. Oh, did you see all those Stalkers focus on that one Stalker and then blink back and take no damage at the same time? That was sick as. Really nice timings by NrSReSpOnSe. But he does have his own expansion up and running now, and as you can see by the income tab, Mr. Bashfix will be able to plow ahead quite nicely. So the timing for Mr. NrSReSpOnSe to put on some pressure is slowly dwindling. He's going to be getting down another gateway, and we have a little bit of a Warp Prism action. DT Shrine going down as well. Oh, I don't mind it as long as he can snipe out his opponent's Observers. So he will be able to put on some aggression here. Does he see it? He's going to be blinking back with these Stalkers, but it looks like we may have a few probes dying here. And he will be able to kill off a few. Blinking in though, wisely taking out that Warp Prism, which is very, very clever indeed. Meanwhile, he's actually going to push up here potentially. And oh dear me, very, very nice use of these Force Fields in order to be able to deny this from going up. We'll be able to take out this, these rocks, but the Stalkers will be able to get back in time. He doesn't have that Warp Prism in order to be able to put on the double-pronged attacks. So, looks like a DT Shrine going down for Bashfix as well. What on earth? Okay, so they could just be using it for Immortals, but then again, you can just get a Twilight Council and get more Immortals and Zealots for your buck. Second Warp Prism will be going down for NrSReSpOnSe. Bashfix, man, his income has kicked in. If he does have Charge out right now, and Charge can make all the difference against these Stalkers, and especially Immortals. Once Zealots start focusing down on Immortals, it becomes very, very hard for them to make much of anything happen. So we have that second Warp Prism on the way, trying to put on a little bit of pressure. He's slightly containing his opponent right now, but for Bashfix, it doesn't really matter. So he's going to charge in once again. Ooh. This is really scary for Mr. NrSReSpOnSe. He really hasn't gone up in terms of supply. Fully enough, he has so much minerals stacked up on this one base. Going to be expanding, or trying to once again. And we have 3 DTs actually warping, and they're going to go sneak around the back in order to be able to put on a little bit of pressure. Trying to poke away at his opponent right now. Wisely dodging those force fields. And we have a few DTs in the main now, ripping apart a few of these probes as they do only one-shot them. So we have Forge on the way, as well as another Observer. Does he actually have an Observer out? He does indeed have an Observer. We'll be able to take those out pretty darn fast. But now this is the opportunity he's been looking for. Going to come in here, try to focus down a few of these units whilst they're slightly separated. Going down this ramp as well. I wouldn't have minded him being a little bit quicker with that response. Going in here, putting a force field down on the bottom of that ramp in order to really kind of pile on the pressure. As he would have been able to probably snipe out his opponent's expansion if he'd have done so. So now we have a few DTs moving on the way to try and deny this expansion. He actually could deny this expansion, but he looks like he wants to go for the money kills, go for a few of the probes. We have another DT going to be warping in here, trying to do a little bit of damage in the probe line of Bashfix. And all these units will come back here to try and deal with this. And will do, but Response is so far ahead in terms of worker kills, but it hasn't really mattered too much. Bashfix has been so on top of his probe count. And as you can see, I mean, well, the flow is relatively even. He did shut down mining for quite a while at this main, and there we go. There's the Archons that I was on about before. And Archons, ooh, hey-oh, becoming really... What on earth is going on? Why is my... Okay, there we go. What was I saying? I was saying something. Yeah, Archon's becoming a real mainstay of PvP now. I mean, not only are they really kind of mobile in comparison to Colossus in order to be able to kind of take out force fields, lead with them in order to be able to deal with that, but also, you know, they kind of rip to shred Zealots. And if your opponent is going slightly Zealot heavy in order to be able to kind of deal with kind of like any Stalker pressure or Blink Stalkers and Immortals, then Archons at the front just tear them absolutely to bits because they are indeed biological, do a lot of damage to them and things like that. So we do have a 1-1 on the way for Mr. Bashfix as he is going double Forge. Not something you see too much in PvP, however, I think he knows that he's pretty far ahead. He saw the timing going down with those DTs on his opponent's expansion. So he's going to be in a pretty good position to be able to kind of commit to a few upgrades. He's going to know that he's slightly ahead in terms of economy and thus unit production. Do have a Forge down for Mr. NrSReSpOnSe. Not doing too much with it just yet. And I'm going to sneeze 1 second. So now we'll try to take out these rocks. Nice pylon position in order to be able to prevent the opponent from getting a little bit of position at the top of this ramp here, and I need to sneeze again. And I don't mind this. It's going to be able to block off Zealots if he so desires, and it's going to make it hard for Bashfix to actually push up here. As you can see, Mr. NrSReSpOnSe is a lot lighter in terms of Zealots than his opponent is, and if you can limit those Zealots from actually engaging with your army and have them like soak a lot of damage on pylons, then that is indeed very awesome. I tried to mute the mic when I was sneezing, but I don't know if it worked. Okay. So we have another Warp Prism coming out, but this time from Bashfix. He's going to try and expand again. I don't mind this expansion position. Going to be expanding on the attack paths of his opponent. Goodbye, Keishi. Nice to see you. Okay, so getting +2 armor going down, which is very nice. But still, bless you. Thank you. Thank you. So, I like NrSReSpOnSe's defense in that. I'm surprised he's even in terms of supply, due to the fact that he had his expansion delayed for so long. Going to be going for a 4th here. We have Templar Archives going down for Bashfix. So I can only assume that that is not for Storm. Storm in PvP is not that good, in my opinion at least. Due to the way shields work, and due to the fact that a lot of these units have got a lot of health. So it doesn't really kill things very quickly. So I can only assume that it is going to be for Archons at a little bit of a cheaper cost in terms of gas mineral kind of ratios. And then you get a lot of Zealots out in front of that as well. Going to have a Robo-Bay going down for Mr. NrSReSpOnSe. So he wants to transition into Colossus, which are really, really the king unit of PvP. I mean, even still, Colossus still rip things absolutely to shreds, given the opportunity. And especially if you get a lot of them up, it can be really, really difficult to deal with as a Protoss player. So it looks like Mr. Bashfix wisely also going to be going for another Robo-Bay as well as... a Robo-Bay as well as a Robo-Facility. He has his units spread out very, very nicely right now. And it looks like we have a little bit of Warp Prism Harass in the main. Was able to take out that very, very quickly, though, as he did have an Observer there to spot it. Excuse me. So, 2 more gas guys going down. Both players establishing a third rather quickly. And, you know, this is PvP now, guys. This is indeed PvP, especially if nobody goes for Colossus early on. If someone goes for Colossus early on, then there is the real kind of possibility that if they get enough Colossus out, they can end the game there and there. Then and there in the first kind of 10-15 minutes or whatever. But if neither player goes for Colossus early on, goes for this Blink Observer play in order to be able to deal with their opponent, then, you know, it can get to this point and you can see some really, really good games in PvP. So now we have a Thermal Lance on the way for a response. No Thermal Lance for Bashfix right now, but he is actually going for double Colossus production and Thermal Lance, there we go, as opposed to his opponent. So this double, oh, and a 4th expansion, oh my god, Bashfix. Your macro right now is flying. As you can see, both players relatively even on supply, but he's able to etch out a few more minerals in order to be able to go for a 4th expansion. All this Observer will need to do is move up a little bit north in order to be able to see that. And actually, that's a really cool place to expand as well, I must admit. As, once again, it's in another place where it's easy to defend for this army that's currently doing a kind of light contain on his opponent. And it's going to be very, very easy to defend indeed. So we'd have +2 weapons going down for NrSReSpOnSe, but +3 armor going down for Bashfix. Wow, and +3 weapons. Bashfix is getting to the point where his armor is going to be absolutely ludicrous. And he has a lot of probes out. I mean, he has 60 probes to the 51 right now. And again, double Colossus production is going to stand him in really, really good stead indeed. Although that being said, Mr. Response, he already has 3 Colossus out. Okay, how many... okay, so 2 Colossus to 3 Colossus, even though he has double Colossus production. And, oh, what a 3rd Robo Facility going down, as he does have that 4th, going to be starting mining very, very quickly. So Bashfix, actually, I really, really love the transition he's doing, going into ridiculous amounts of Colossus in order to be able to deal with that. I mean, earlier on in the earlier stages of the game, you really need Immortals in order to be able to kind of complement your Colossus when you're going up against an opponent going for Blink Stalkers, due to the fact that if your opponent tries to blink in order to be able to snipe out the Colossus, the Immortals just rip them apart, and vice versa. So, ooh, looks like we may have a little bit of an engagement pretty soon. And we do have Templar Archives going down for response as well. But yeah, as I was saying, in the later stages of the game, you really don't need the Immortals too much in order to be able to complement, because you have such a strong ground army. And also, I don't think he's going to be doing any kind of blink-ins to snipe Colossus anyway, unless he sees 1 or 2 that are really, really out of place. So, right now, NrSReSpOnSe is scouting out both of these expansions, and I can only assume he thinks his opponent is on 2 base. But no, dear me, he sent a DT up to the north here, sees this expansion, and Bashfix actually expanding even further towards his opponent. Both players at 200 right now. We have Charge on the way, more DTs coming out in order to be able to turn into Archons. +3 and Charge going down for Mr. NrSReSpOnSe. Going to be able to take out some of these pylons though, very, very nicely with that extended Thermal Lance, as it makes it very, very hard for him to gauge up this ramp with those Charge lots. And now, indeed, they have been taken out. He doesn't have much energy on this sentry here, so he won't be able to throw down any force fields in order to be able to separate his opponent's army. But right now, he's got a great contain on him, and again, expanding towards his opponent is going to mean he's able to protect his economy, or whilst continuing with this light contain. He has better upgrades than his opponent, and dare I say, he has a better composition than his opponent. 17 Zealots, 7... the Colossus count's really close. It could go either way. This is a really bad bottleneck for Bash. He's going to actually push up here. I'm not so sure he should be doing this. This is a great, great concave for NrSReSpOnSe. And this PvP, guys, just got into the realms of awesome. I mean, there hasn't been too much harassment going on, But when you see a 200-200 Protoss going up against a 200-200 Protoss, you're going to know there's going to be a few lasers flying about. Oh, what on earth? Okay, he's killing off some of his Stalkers to get more Colossus out. That's fine. Shield upgrades coming out for both players right now, and he's going to start trying to poke at his opponent with these Colossus. And if he can get a few volleys off, he's going to be able to whittle down a few of these Stalkers. There we go. A few Stalker kills for free. Not too bad a decision at all. But he doesn't want to overextend, because if he gets killed out of position with his Stalkers, so we have a few DTs in the third here, and able to do a little bit of pressure. And meanwhile, getting into a lovely position. He could actually catch his opponent off guard, but all these Zealots are stuck in the back. They really need to be in the front in order to be able to soak some damage. But there we go. Guardian Shield is going to go for an NrSReSpOnSe, and he's going to flee just slightly, as a lot of his army is currently clumped up. Mr. Bashfix did have a nicer concave. I actually just don't know where this is going to go, but Bashfix has an amazing upgrades in comparison to his opponent. It's going to be really, really hard for NrSReSpOnSe to make anything happen here. These Colossus are absolutely shredding to bits. Oh, but DT is actually in the mix as well, focusing down some of these Colossus. This could be the turning point in this battle for Mr. Bashfix. And he will be able to push in here. Blinking forward is going to be able to take out one or two of these Colossus. He doesn't have an observer. He was actually retreating back to these photon cannons. And now he will be able to push in, doing a lot of damage with these Colossus. We'll have to retreat back. Needs a little bit of kind of support with these guys, and we do have more DTs trying to kill off a few of these Colossus. So that was a really, really even trade for both players, gotta say. But that being said, Bashfix behind this has the 4th expansion up. He's going to be throwing down a lot more gateways as well in order to be able to replenish like a Zerg. And he's not joining this up just yet, but I mean, this expansion here, even if he doesn't drone it up, this is a big statement for Mr. NrSReSpOnSe. This is a big, big kind of point where, oh, okay, so we have a lot more probes actually being transferred. I wonder what all this was moving, but at the same time, we have Mr. NrSReSpOnSe going to push out for now. He's slightly down on supply, doesn't have the upgrades, but those DTs did a lot of damage to his opponent. I don't think he should be transferring too many probes here, as the Colossus, I mean, this positioning here, the Colossus can pick away at this. I would rather him just kind of not use this base, put the probes somewhere else, expand to another location, closer to his main, and again, I just use this as a statement, saying, hey, I've expanded to your front door. This is how confident I am with my play. And again, you know, both players pretty darn even. We see a lot of upgrades coming out once again. NrSReSpOnSe is getting +2/+2 for both his armor upgrades. And how many Colossus do we have out for both players? So, okay, 8 Colossus to 7 Colossus. This is the first time Bashfix in the game has actually taken the Colossus lead, but he has been pumping them out 2 at a time. It just looks like Mr. NrSReSpOnSe has been very, very proactive with the Chrono Boosts on his. Oh, and that's exactly what I was on about. Taking out a lot of those probes, but they were able to soak a lot of damage, and he was able to take out a few of the Zealots, but he did take out a ton of workers there. So Bashfix right now, this is looking a bit dicey. And once again, going to be able to take out a few of those. He doesn't want to lose a lot of these Colossus, though. He's going to be able to push in. That's a lot of Archons, as he will have to flee back right now. And this is getting... Oh, okay, so we have a second robo facility down now for NrSReSpOnSe. But right now, Bashfix is looking to starve out his opponent. He only has, in theory, this base mining, as opposed to the 2 bases of his opponent. Going to be pushing in here with a few Zealots, trying to get a good engagement off, but nice positioning of these buildings makes it very, very hard for these Zealots to actually engage these photon cannons effectively. So now it looks like he will be luring him back with these Zealots that are actually putting on the harassment. We have a few High Templar in the mix here. We'll be morphing those into the Archons. And he's putting a little bit of pressure, drawing his opponent out. He could actually hit this base here and take it out pretty quickly and try to secure this position so he could try and establish a little bit of an economy here for himself. But this is really, really dodgy now. Even if he did kill this off, it's been mined ever so slightly, trying to force an engagement. Bashfix right now, very, very high up in terms of supply because his economy has been so much better than his opponents for this entire game. Bashfix playing a really lovely PvP. This, I mean, yes, it is sort of just Colossus Wars, but it's Colossus Wars with a little bit of flair. This is really, really nice play from Bashfix, gotta say. I love how he's playing. He's playing calm and steady, making sure his opponent can't establish any kind of lead in terms of income, so, or even an entire game in terms of income. So he's actually going to push in here. He is indeed maxed. He took a lot of splash damage with those Colossus very quickly. These are very, very nicely spread out, but at the same time, the Archon's going to be able to do so much damage to these Colossus, and that is too many Colossus for Bashfix. Oh my good god, 12 Colossus able to come in here and absolutely ravage Response, and GG, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to do it for that PvP. What an amazingly awesome game. We'll be back, guys, with another game very, very soon.